Oh, by the way, that was on earlier while we were doing that, and there was this dude on there wearing the most ridiculous outfit. And I couldn't stop looking at it. It's too late.
Was he wearing a sarong? Like, what was he wearing?
The toe, bro?
He looked like...
Come
Oh.
Come on.
He had this, like, striped shirt with his vest on. He looked like one of those guys that you would see at, like, a circus with a accordion.
Oh,
with, like this weird hat. Like, I don't know what...
Like a puffy shirt?
Yeah, but, like, with red and blue and white stripes. Okay. I don't know what was going on.
I don't want to watch this.
Well, you got no choice.
Oh,
she's not wearing a revealing top this time.
Thank God. Jeff makes
Stacey wouldn't be able to concentrate, so.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. We're on Facebook. All right.
Now everybody knows.
Yep. Everybody knows Stacey's
proclivity.
Okay. Ready?
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Prime Properties. I'm Michael Morris. Sitting in with me, Stacey Plybon from eMerge. Stacey, how are you?
I'm well, thanks.
Oh, that was very to the point.
I'm well.
She's doing well. And the other person in the room with us laughing is DeAndre Martin from Signature Real Estate. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad I have two great real estate professionals, and also not these older, set in their way kind of people. You guys are the new trendy type, right? We're using Zillow a lot. Is that what we're doing? I'm just kidding. I happened to see another article about. DeAndre, you weren't here. We were talking about Zillow and how that doesn't give you accurate information all the time. And now it just seems to keep popping up in my news feed over and over how that's not the way to go. First of all, DeAndre, let people know, you've been in this business 7 years, correct?
7 years, yes.
And with Signature, and you're originally from Cleveland, but you've done all your real estate transactions here.
No, I've did some transactions in Cleveland as well.
I did not know that. That's not in my notes. You can't go off the notes. So right now, Stacey weren't here. We were in the green room talking, and DeAndre was saying the market is still hot, correct?
Yes.
So I want to talk about some of the things that have come up. There are a lot of people that will say, why would I buy a house now when the market is hot, when my rent is so low, or I'm used to it? I want you guys both to answer that question. I'm going to start ladies first.
Ladies first.
Well, I don't know who is saying that their rent is low because rents are high. Actually, right? So, to be honest, in my experience, rents are high, and if you're paying that amount, sometimes, quite frankly, a mortgage could end up being cheaper than your rent. So, and renting is great, I guess, if you don't want that commitment or you don't want your investment to grow, but purchasing a home.
That was what we were. If you don't want to make money.
Right. Well, I mean that's the whole premise on purchasing a home. So, I would say you would want to build that equity up, and be grateful for yourself. 10 years down the road, for sure.
I would agree with that 100%. I don't like wasting money.
Yeah.
So when you're paying rent, you're wasting money. You don't get any return off of that at all. It just goes to someone else.
But what do you say to people that are saying, well, the market's really hot? Because, like we discussed, people you can't come in and underbid, where the house is at. You've got to go in, you've got to be ready to go, and you could lose it. I mean, some of these homes, what the average is still 34 days that a house is sitting there, but some are going within a day or a week, right?
Absolutely.
So you have to come to play, and you can't really negotiate all that much back and forth. You're not going to get a steal anymore, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can, I suppose, if you are a fixer-upper or if you get the appropriate loan product, that would allow you to fix that home up. But we're not in the heat of the season. That's coming. We're tipping towards being back into that super hot market. It's still a hot market, but buyers still have an opportunity. It's a little even kill right now, but we're gearing up for definitely what you just talked about, where it's buyers need to come prepared, probably not ask for much, give asking price or over, those sort of things.
When you say not ask for much, and DeAndre, I still want you to answer that. I just want to get an answer on this. When you say not ask for much, you're saying in terms of things that have to be repaired, or is it more we want you to pay closing, no you pay closing, or because you don't want to play that game when it's really hot.
Right, you don't want to play that game when it's really hot. As far as asking them to fix things, that's a secondary term of negotiations that happen after you commit and get that contract going. So really the initial is your closing costs and purchase price. We call those concessions to the buyer. So you don't want to ask your seller to pay an astronomical amount towards your closing costs or buy downs or whatever have you. You want to keep it to where, you know, you came to buy a house, so you need to understand that does cost some money, and the seller is paying for both agents typically in this market as well. So you might want to take it a little easier on them and be prepared to bring your own money to the table if you want that house.
When people are looking at the advantages of owning a home, I mean, we're all, obviously you guys sell real estate, so you're saying buy a house. But what are the advantages for people? And again, take price out of the issue, because again, the market is hot now, it can go stale again.
Sure.
But I think people that are renters that are sitting out, where are they missing out? Are they missing out on, like you said, you're making money, or you're not making money, you're losing money by renting. But what are the peak things that people need to know?
They're missing out on the future, investment for the future. I would say owning is a great thing. It's a great investment for your life. Renting, I'm not saying it's bad to rent. Some people don't know they can own. Actually, they need to kind of go through the process to see if they can get approved for a loan as well. I think that's a lot of things that I come in to see. People don't think they are able to buy a home off their finances, but
how's that come up in conversation? Is that because I'm sure that you guys are out in the community talking to people, and it's not constantly like, hey, I'm a realtor. When they're saying I'm not sure if I can afford it, I've seen that before where people are like, you know, my rent is this much, I've got these school loans, I've got this, but it doesn't seem that they're realizing that rent payment goes away. It can be applied to buying a home and actually building equity.
Well, I've had clients that I've talked to. I have a lot of people coming up asking me, can I find them a place to rent?
Yeah.
So
Not a place to buy, but a place
not
to
a place
rent.
to buy, a place to rent. And I asked them, like, why do you want to rent? Or have you ever looked into buying your own home? And then I've had a few people that I've sent through the process, and they was actually surprised that they was able to get approved for a certain amount and to buy a home. So I think it's just the knowledge about people not knowing.
Yeah, we actually talked about that. I don't know if you've experienced this, but basically people have that 10, 20 years ago where they have to have 20% down.
Yeah.
So they think they have to
Yeah.
have like 25 grand in the bank, and it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
What's the current situation? Stacey and I last week talked about the bank of mom and dad, where that is
Yeah.
the 7th highest thing they're looking at, how people are buying homes. That's where they're borrowing the money, is from their parents or their grandparents or whatever. Are you seeing more and more people that are not financially prepared to get into a house, or it's they don't know that they can get in a house, you know, and there are advantages to it? We had a tax person on that say that there is an advantage to having that first-time home buyer, whereas that when they're renting, they are just throwing it away, but they're getting no tax benefit for it.
Right. I think it's a lot of benefits people don't know about, a lot of programs to help people with their down payments. And then, again, just being disciplined on saving. A lot of people don't know that they can save money and it builds up. So you can plan to buy a house in a year or two and save up a down payment if you just cut back on expenses that you're spending that you don't need.
You mean like the ancillary stuff where it's like, we're going to go on 3 vacations a year. One
Right,
vacation that you don't take will give you 3 or 4 grand back.
It's all about what's important to you. Yeah.
Vacations, it's also, I've always taken a look at the bank statements, and let's look at how many times you've gone to the gas station for frivolous items, or how many times you ate out.
Out to eat, it's
Yeah,
a
how
huge
many-
expense.
Absolutely. How many, times you shop at Target and you buy those things that you don't need, whatever. So, I say travel. I love that. I think it's good for the soul and the spirit and all of that. Definitely travel. Cut back on Target. Cut back on Walmart. Cut back on, the dollar store. That seems like only $1, but maybe that dollar could be better spent on other items. And 9 times out of 10, we throw those in our house, give it to the kid, whatever, and then we end up giving it away within 6 months or throwing it in the trash.
Yeah.
So those frivolous things, you have to be definitely self-aware, and that's a hard thing to come into.
What about people that put off buying a house because of the as we mentioned before, the repairs or the upkeep of something.
Yeah.
One of the things on a show that we do, we have a lot of remodelers come on, and they talk about their biggest and best projects they do. You know, these $30,000 additions. I think that 22 to say 30-year-old market, I think they look at it like that house has to be perfect when I get there, right? They're not willing to put money into it. Do you see a lot of people holding off because they think, well, when I get my perfect house, it'll have the patio, it'll have the porch, it'll have this kind of stuff? Or are you seeing people in that age range where they're just saying, I want to own a home in this neighborhood and this is where it's got to be?
Okay. I think that trades are definitely dying. I think that the generation of like my parents, those fellas seem to know how to fix things and had no problem. I think unfortunately that's kind of gone away. So yeah, I think that is a scary topic for some people. You said 22 to what? 20?
Well, I'm saying 22 to 30 years old. Typically, that's when you've either started, you know, your marriage or a family.
Sure.
In that range. Typically, you haven't bought a house yet.
Right.
So when you are, I remember buying my first house, like, this is where we're going to raise our kids and we're going to be here forever.
Right.
And after 6.5 years, it's like, oh, our kid is going to go to a really bad school system if we don't do something here.
Sure.
So your forever house is not always your first house.
Oh gosh, no. And I think that's up to us to kind of talk to them about too. Like, what are your goals and where are you at? And talk to them about, you know, the process, because that's kind of what our job is, not to persuade them or change their mind on their goals, but to be more realistic and point out those things to them that they're facing. I think forever at 22 years old is a bit, or 25 or 30 even, it's a bit rough. Yeah. You got to crawl before you walk.
Absolutely.
When you're dealing with people, you know, in this market now, the younger people, are they more hesitant? Because there are more, there's not I don't want to say inventory, but I had a realtor say, you know, I need more inventory. I'm looking for inventory. But when they're looking for properties to put people in, the turn is so fast. Do you see that people are more, they're not gun shy. They're like trying to jump on it right away, right? So they're not really thinking it through. You've got to kind of guide them through and be like, this might not be, you know, if you're going to be here for 5 years, here's what you got to look at. Tax-wise, school system, this, or is it, because some realtors will just put you in a house, right?
Yes, and to a point you have to, because that's what they want. That's important. But you have to do your due diligence as their fiduciary means. You have to talk to them about things. But at the end of the day, it's their choice. And you're there, you know, I'll use the bus driving. I'll drive the bus. You tell me where to go.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I agree with that too. It's all about what they want to do with their future goals. Obviously, they ask me. I try to point them in the right direction, especially if they're a little younger than me. You might be wanting to jump into something fast and without doing the due diligence, knowing, especially if you have kids, the school district, that's very important. Or if you can send your kids to private school, if you can afford it. So it's a lot.
If they can get there, it's not just because they afford it. Is it a 40-minute drive or not?
Yeah, it's a lot of things that come into buying a house, but I think that's why we're professionals. We can help with kind of questions that need to be asked. My first house, we bought a condo, so we wasn't ready for a house, but we know we didn't want to pay rent and keep wasting money. So
well, because you wanted to build the equity in the condo to be able to move on.
So when we bought our condo about 2 years ago, we're I think about 20,000 more. It's worth 20,000 more now.
Wow. So
I would figure maybe in the next 3-4 years, when I do eventually buy a house, it'll be hopefully be my forever house. But I'd invested my money, good for me and my family.
That's something that we've actually never talked about in the month of doing the show is houses versus condos. But do you see more? You said people aren't learning trades. Well, I also see people aren't cutting their own grass anymore. So is that one of the things where people are like, hey, I don't want to do any maintenance on this. I'm not looking for a house. I'm looking for a condo, or I'm looking for as low maintenance as possible?
I think there are some young folks looking for condos, but I feel like that's most generally our retirement age. I think downsizing.
You love to talk about the retirement age in our senior community.
But that is true. I mean, I think that they have the lifestyle type communities where younger folks with no children, singles, you know, they really enjoy those. And then, of course, the seniors.
Your
But,
favorite. Well, I want to get DeAndre's opinion on
yeah.
this. One of the things we've talked about before is that adjusting to someone's lifestyle. So Stacey, what's near and dear to her heart is taking care of the senior citizens, the elderly, and providing them a community they can live in and have access to things they want. Have you been in a situation, DeAndre, where you are kind of taking in somebody's lifestyle and saying, okay, here's where you need to be, or they're telling you where you need to be, or they need to be?
They're telling me where they need to be. By me just listening to them, I kind of throw hints and suggestions, but they ultimately telling me where they need to be.
How hard is that hint? You don't want to be there.
No, I can't do that. Just I give them examples, especially my personal examples of my own life. Just have them think about different things, what their goals are, what they plan to do in the next 5 to 10 years. Just think of it as a long-term thing. When you buy a house, it's long-term. It's not nothing that's short and, you know, it's just a year or two thing. It's usually, I mean, you sign a loan for 30 years,
Right.
so.
That's always the worst part of the process is when you realize you got to sign that thing. Everything sounds great until you have to get that pen out and you put your name.
Right.
Stacey, when you're dealing with people, are you finding now that you are in a process where you are trying to find places for people that they're kind of giving you like an array of where they want to be? More than, I can tell you exactly how mine was done. Was my wife went and that was the neighborhood she wanted to be in because it was right by her office. She had already looked at the school system, all that. I didn't even know. I just drove up to the house today and I said, okay, that's fine. Are you seeing that still kind of the way where the wife is picking, or are they kind of picking as a couple, or how's that working?
I think that it's definitely something that they pick together, but it's usually the wife has one idea, the husband has one idea.
Yeah.
You find them a perfect house. One of them doesn't like it, and then you go and
Wait, but
so it's
that's
kinda,
my question: is do they buy it and like one person's 100% and the other one's about 61%, and it's like I'm gonna put up with it?
Yeah, you kind of, one of them ends up getting beat down at the end of it, and they're like, you know what, this is it, you know. And I would say it's usually the wife, happy life.
Right.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say there have to be some nightmare discussions in a car with some people, but.
Yeah,
I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to find, again, if you're not 50 some years old and you're not ever leaving there's got to be a lot of things that they fluctuate between what they really want versus what they really need.
Sure.
Right?
Well, yeah. What they want usually is those nicer neighborhoods, bigger homes, that sort of thing. And you do have to talk to them a little bit about accessibility, drive time. You have a lifestyle. So you pick this place, and then you have to go to work every day, or then you have to take the kids to practices or whatever. Maybe they don't have children, whatever. But you got to take all of that into consideration. You want their value of life to be good.
Well, I also, one of the things I was going to ask you is because I always see I saw on both your websites is that there's always a blog and there's always like activity going on, construction. One of the things I didn't know when I bought my house off 161 is that they were going to do 1-lane freeway for like 13 miles. It was going to go on for 2 years. That's something you guys have to be aware of, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't let people, if I was living in Delaware right now, like Lou and I were talking about, all the building that's going on up there, all the trucks and all the nails on the road and all the mess and debris, that's right around your neighborhood. So as something is growing, you bought this house to be kind of on your own, kind of in the country, and it's being built up around you. But real estate professionals have to know that's going on, right? So you can share that and say, don't forget they'll be knocking down all these woods here in about 2 months.
Yeah, I definitely do my research on each area, especially if my client is gung-ho on this certain area. So I definitely try to look down the line to see what's going on in the area, in the neighborhood, school district, because it can be pluses and minuses, but I kind of give them all the good stuff and tell them what's going on just so they can be aware. Hopefully they already kind of did their own due diligence. If they knew that was the area they wanted to be in, there had to be a reason why. Because I have a client who just wants to stay in New Albany and don't want to look anywhere else. You know, New Albany is really expensive.
Right.
And but they know they have a lot of intelligence on New Albany though, so I kind of looked to see what was going on. Obviously, it's growing. It's a very stable neighborhood. They know all of that, so the people just know what they want, no matter what's going on in the area.
But it's also hard to change somebody's mind. If they're dead set, I'm not going to leave this area. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room for you as an agent. There's not a lot you can do.
Right. I've threw in some houses sometimes just to see.
You're like, hey, have you looked in Gehenna maybe?
Right. But it don't work a lot. But I try.
Stacey, you have the same thing?
Yeah, I usually do a primary search and a secondary search, so that they know, like, here's your primary search criteria. This is where you actually want to be. This is your first choice. But let's take a look at these second choices, just to be sure. And sometimes they fall through the cracks, and you might actually be happy with something in a secondary area. But you know, sending them those links to the city, the township, whatever, you know, so they can read up on the minutes for the council meetings, township meetings, things like that, checking the development of that city, sending them to newalbany.org. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, but, you know, sending them to things like that, and then just talking to them always about property taxes and how that affects your monthly payment as well. You know, making sure that they have that, you know, financial ability.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
and it sounds like, you know, his client is more than able, but not everybody is.
Yeah, right.
You
That's
know?
what they're listening right now. They're debating. Maybe they could go to Sunbury. But all what we're talking about here is why you need a real estate agent, right? Because even though things are hot and everybody wants to sell their own home because they don't want to pay that realtor commission, these are all things that go into being a realtor, right? Doing the research, knowing the tax codes, knowing what's being built. But either one of you can speak to this. Again, we don't talk about this often enough. Why you need a realtor. It's not just so somebody can make a commission or so you can take that yard out of somebody's, or that sign out of somebody's yard. There's a reason for it, right?
Absolutely. Especially when you are looking for a house. It's free for you.
Right.
If you're looking for a home, it's free. Why not have a professional do the work for you for free? You don't have to pay anything. We take care of all of that. We make sure you're knowledgeable about what's going on. It's just, I mean, I feel like it's common sense to me. If somebody can do it for free,
Well, it's like they have a tour guide so you can go through. One thing I didn't ask before, how many times have you gone through the same property? Like, have you gone through one home like 5 or 6 times where you don't even need the paper, like, you just know where everything's at, here's all the nook and crannies? Like, do you get comfortable showing the same home over and over, or do you kind of like, I can't look at this bathroom one more time?
You get used to it. You got to do it. You show it, and you show it to your whatever clients that it would be appropriate for. So yeah, no, it's part of the gig.
You ever get attached to a house? Like one that you're like, if this was for me, like where you really feel like I want to put someone in because I love this piece of property.
Yeah, I have had that happen to me before with a bank owned. I got excited over the flip. So, and then I was working numbers in my head, seeing could I do it if they passed on it. You know, it happens.
You get a lot of ideas, and
you do.
You see a lot of cool things in different houses. So it's definitely a great experience to be a realtor. But it's even better when you can find someone a home that they love and they're happy with.
Yeah.
And they give you a referral.
The referrals.
Right. It lets you know that you did a good job as well. So.
Well, you said, DeAndre, the majority of your business right now is referral.
Yes.
What's the most important research that people are probably missing out on that a realtor would know to look at? Because, again, we talk about the negative. I don't want to bash something, but when you're looking at Zillow, if it's not updated current information, it's not really doing you any favors, right? So, but a realtor can pull information that a regular buyer can't touch, or seller.
Mm-hmm.
What are the pieces of information that you would have that would probably be the most useful for somebody?
I would say knowledge of public record. Plus our MLS, Columbus does a great job of offering us details on the home. We can even look up when the last loan was put on there, what the amount was, so we know what we're working with on that seller. As far as if they just got maybe an equity loan last year for, $80,000, but, so it's just different factors like that. I think that we can gain that information to better negotiate on behalf of our buyers.
Yeah.
And a buyer doesn't have access to that. And we pay a lot of money every year to have access to that information. And we do a lot of continuing education for it as well. So we can't be touched in comparison to the average buyer. Even if they've purchased multiple homes, you still don't have access to the tools that we have access to, and the different nuances. So I think that's probably number one.
She hit it right on the head. The access that we have, the knowledge that we have, all the updates that we get. You may look at something on Zillow or any other sites, and it may show it's available and it's not. So it kind of gets your hopes up.
Yeah.
I have a lot of clients calling me like, "What about this house?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry, in contract."
It was a nice house 6 months ago.
Right. Right. Then also we're able to, see how much the property is really worth. Look at stuff previous from years ago, or to see how the market changed in the area, or what the house is sold for. So this is a lot of things that just goes into it that we have knowledge about.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody wants your knowledge as we're wrapping up here today, I want to go, Stacey, if somebody wants to get a hold of you at eMerge, how do they do it?
CentralOhioHomesandLifestyle.com, or like us on Facebook, Central Ohio Homes and Lifestyle.
All right. And then, DeAndre, how can someone get a hold of you?
SignatureRealEstate.com, or you can give me a call, email me. Come to my restaurant. I'm gonna put the restaurant plug.
Yeah.
I
You
was
can
hoping
go.
for some
Here's
samples,
the
I gotta be
thing.
honest.
This is the only realtor that I know that you can actually go and eat lunch with him, and it's his place. So they can see you at the pit as
They
well.
can see me at the pit. So that's kind of one of my plugs for my clients. Get free lunch with me if you.
It's gonna be a shame if they make you pay today. All right. Well, that's all we got time for today. I want to thank you both for coming on. You've been listening to Prime Properties, and we will see you next weekend.